Zara was a heavy cruiser built for the Italian Regia Marina, the lead ship of the Zara class. Named after the Italian city of Zara, the ship was built at the Odero-Terni-Orlando shipyard, beginning with her keel laying in July 1928, launching in April 1930, and commissioning in October 1931. Armed with a main battery of 8 8-inch guns, she was nominally within the 10,000 long-ton limit imposed by the Washington Naval Treaty, though in reality she significantly exceeded this figure. Zara saw extensive service during the first 2 years of Italy's participation in World War II, having taken part in several sorties to catch British convoys in the Mediterranean as the flagship of the 1st Division. She was present during the Battle of Calabria in July 1940, the Battle of Taranto in November 1940, and the Battle of Cape Matapan in March 1941. In the last engagement, Zara and her sister ships Fiume and Pola were sunk in a close-range night engagement with 3 British battleships. Most of her crew, 783 officers and sailors, including the divisional commander Admiral Carlo Cattaneo, were killed in the sinking. Design. Zara was 182.8 meters long overall, with a beam of 20.62 meters and a draft of 7.2 meters. She displaced 14,300 long tons at full load, though her displacement was nominally within the 10,000 long-ton restriction set in place by the Washington Naval Treaty. Her power plant consisted of 2 Parsons steam turbines powered by oil-fired Yarrow boilers, which were trunked into 2 funnels amidships. Her engines were rated at 95,000 shaft horsepower and produced a top speed of 32 knots. She had a crew of 841 officers and enlisted men. She was protected with an armored belt that was 150 mm thick amidships. Her armor deck was 70 mm thick in the central portion of the ship and reduced to 20 mm at either end. The gun turrets had 150 mm thick plating on the faces, and the barbets they sat in were also 150 mm thick. The main conning tower had 150 mm thick sides. Zara was armed with a main battery of 8 203 mm Mod 29 .53 caliber guns in 4 gun turrets. The turrets were arranged in super-firing pairs forward and aft. Anti-aircraft defense was provided by a battery of 16 100 mm 47 cal guns in twin mounts, 4 40 mm guns in single mounts, and 8 12.7 mm guns in twin mounts. She carried a pair of Imamro 43 seaplanes for aerial reconnaissance. The hangar was located in under the forecastle, and a fixed catapult was mounted on the centerline at the bow. Zara's secondary battery was revised several times during her career. 2 of the 100 mm guns and all of the 40 mm and 12.7 mm guns were removed in the late 1930s, and 8 37 mm 54 cal guns and 8 13.2 mm guns were installed in the place. 2 120 mm 15 cal Starshell guns were added in 1940. Service history. Zara's keel was laid down on the 4th of July 1928 at the Odero-Terni-Orlando shipyard at Mugliano, La Spezia. She was launched on the 27th of April 1930, and her construction was completed on the 20th of October 1931. During sea trials, Zara reached a speed of 35.23 knots. but this was with the ship's machinery forced to give 120,690 shp. This was not representative of in-service performance, however, and normal maximum at sea speed was about 29 knots. The ship was presented with her battle flag in her namesake city, now Zadar, Croatia. In August 1932, Zara took part in fleet training exercises in the Gulf of Naples. King Victor Emmanuel III came aboard the ship on the 13th. She became the flagship of the 1st Naval Squadron in September. She took part in a naval review held for Benito Mussolini in the Gulf of Naples on 6 to 7 July 1933. Zara participated in another review on the 27th of November, 1936, and Victor Emmanuel III, his son Umberto II Mussolini, and the regent of Hungary, Miklos Horthy, all came aboard the ship. Another fleet review was held for the German Field Marshal Werner von Blomberg, the German Minister of Defense, on the 7th of June 1937. On the 16th of September, the commander of the squadron transferred his flag to the battleship Conte di Cavour. A final peacetime naval review took place on the 5th of May 1938, held for the visit of Adolf Hitler. On the 7th of March 1939, Zara and her sister ships sortied from Taranto to intercept a squadron of Republican warships, 3 cruisers and 8 destroyers, attempting to reach the Black Sea. The Italian ships were ordered not to open fire but merely to try to impede the progress of the Spanish ships and force them to dock at Augusta, Sicily. The Spanish commander refused and instead steamed to Bizerte in French Tunisia, where his ships were interned. A month later, from 7 to the 9th of April, Zara supported the Italian invasion of Albania without incident. She was in port in Genoa for Navy Day on the 10th of June. She spent the rest of 1939 uneventfully. World War II. At Italy's entrance into the Second World War on the 10th of June 1940, Zara was assigned to the 1st Division of the 1st Squadron, as the flagship of Rear Admiral Matucci. The division also included her sisters Gorizia and Fiume and the 4 Oriani-class destroyers. At the time, the division was based in Taranto. The ships were immediately sent to patrol off the island of Crete, and on 11–12 June, the ships were attacked by an unknown submarine, which the destroyers unsuccessfully counterattacked. On the 21st of June, Zara and the rest of the division were transferred to Augusta, Sicily, to be better positioned to intercept Allied convoys in the Mediterranean. The following day, the 1st Division joined a patrol with the 2nd and 3rd Divisions, though they failed to find any Allied vessels. Zara was present at the Battle of Calabria on the 9th of July. On the 30th of July, the 1st Division escorted a convoy to Benghazi and Tripoli in Italian Libya, arriving back in Augusta on the 1st of August. Gunnery training off Naples followed on the 16th of August, and on the 29th of August the ships left Naples for Taranto, arriving the next day. On the 31st, the 1st Division sortied to intercept the British convoys in Operation Hats, though the Italian fleet broke off the attack without encountering the merchant ships. Zara returned to Taranto, and was present during the Battle of Taranto on the night of 11–12 November. She was undamaged during the British attack. In the aftermath of the attack, the Italian command decided to disperse the fleet to protect them from further attacks. Zara was sent to La Spezia for periodic maintenance on the 12th. The work lasted until the 9th of December, and she steamed south to Naples the following day. British bombing of the port 4 days later forced the Italians to again relocate the cruisers, sending them first to La Maddalena in Sardinia on the 15th of December and then back to Naples on the 19th. They stayed there for 3 days before proceeding to Taranto on the 22nd of December. That month, Admiral Carlo fellow Cataneo came aboard Zara as the new commander of the division. Training exercises with Gorizia followed on the 29th of January and continued into the next month, when Pola joined them on the 13th of February. In mid-March, Zara, Pola, and Fiume conducted gunnery training in the Gulf of Taranto. By this time, Pola had replaced Gorizia in the 1st Division. Battle of Cape Matapan. The Italian fleet made another attempt to intercept a British convoy in the eastern Mediterranean south of Crete in late March. This operation resulted in the Battle of Cape Matapan on 27 to 29 March. For most of the daytime engagement, Pola and the rest of the 3rd Division were stationed on the disengaged side of the Italian fleet, and so did not see action during this phase. Vittorio Veneto was torpedoed by British aircraft from the carrier Formidable and was forced to withdraw, and the 3rd Division remained on the port side of the Italian fleet to screen against another possible British attack. A second British airstrike later on the 28th failed to locate the retiring Vittorio Veneto and instead scored a single torpedo strike on Pola, hitting her amidships on her starboard side. In the confusion of the attack, Pola had nearly collided with Fiume and had been forced to stop, which had prevented her from taking evasive action. The damage filled 3 compartments with water and disabled 5 of her boilers and the main steam line that fed the turbines, leaving her immobilized. Admiral Lucchino, the fleet commander, was unaware of Pola's plight until 2010. Upon learning of the situation, he detached Zara, Fiume, and 4 destroyers to protect Pola. At around the same time, the British cruiser HMS Orion detected Pola on her radar and reported her location. The British fleet, centered on the battleships Valiant, Warspite, and Barham, was at this point only 50 nm away. The British ships, guided by radar, closed in on the Italians at 22:10. Pola was about 6 nautical miles from Valiant. Lookouts on the crippled Italian cruiser spotted shapes approaching and assumed them to be friendly vessels, so they fired a red flare to guide them. Almost 20 minutes later, the British illuminated first Zara and then Fiume with the searchlights. The British battleships obliterated Zara, Fiume, and 2 destroyers in a point-blank engagement. Zara had been hit by 4 broadsides from Warspite and 5 more from Valiant in the span of just a few minutes. The destroyer HMAS Stuart launched torpedoes at the crippled Zara and scored at least 1 hit. The destroyer Havoc launched 4 more torpedoes with unknown results. The British battleships then turned away to avoid a torpedo attack from the remaining destroyers. Zara, by now burning furiously, remained afloat and drifted near the immobilized Pola. Zara's commander decided at 2 o'clock that his ship could not be saved, and so ordered the crew to scuttle the ship. At around the same time, the destroyer Jervis arrived on the scene and fired 3 torpedoes at Zara. The demolition charges exploded in the magazines at 2:30, and within 10 minutes the ship capsized and sank. Most of her crew, some 783 men including Cataneo, were killed in the sinking. Zara was formally stricken from the Naval Register on the 18th of October 1946.